everyone, time for another episode of Doug Reacts, our occasional delve into the virtual mailbox, but it's really the comments section here on our YouTube channel, where we take a look at a sample of the amazing comments in this amazing community. I'm really not exaggerating. I feel like we've built one of the coolest, fun, chill groups of folks that come together with a passion for word games on all of YouTube. And I'm just incredibly proud of that. So without any further ado, let's jump in and look at what we've got today. Our first comment comes from John Alaminos, and I apologize if I mispronounced that name. Hey, Doug, is there any reason you don't display your long-term stats for Wordle, such as streak, percentage success rate, etc.? Other YouTubers, such as Art and Kenny, do this. Well, that's a good question. John, thank you so much for asking that, and I do have an answer for you. There was a time originally when we were going back to the first few months we were doing this. We would just tape these, and we would keep the streaks up on the screen and all that good stuff. So here's the logistics behind that. We kind of quickly decided, as we started committing to doing these playthroughs on a daily basis, we quickly realized that if you can play the Wordles that are placed in this Wordle site that are in the future if you just change your system date. And from a practical standpoint, to be able to give the best quality production here, we made the judgment call that what we would do was we would record these in advance, usually a week, sometimes 2 weeks in advance if we have commitments outside of our studio. So that we can sit down and really do a good job with it and not be recording these at 11:55 at night each day. I just feel like it would come across that I was a little bit parched, if you will, maybe a little tired on these, and I wanted to look fresh and really be energized through this. So we do that. So part of this technically is from time to time is we're constantly bouncing our system dates and our browsers back and forth. The local browser storage gets a little screwy, and sometimes we have situations where we have to reset the browser cache to kind of make these things work properly in terms of seeing the future puzzles. And so it kind of invalidates the ability for us to cleanly show all the stats. I can assure you, you have my word, these are legitimate, organic. I don't know these words ahead of time. They represent the one and only play I do with them, success or fail, and we have failed on this show. You've seen them. You can see them if you look them up. And there you go. So again, just to avoid confusion, I choose to come out of the puzzle before we throw the stats up because any inconsistency due to what we have to do with the browsers to get them to play the future puzzles would be confusing, and I don't want to confuse the audience or give off the appearance that we're doing something untoward. So that's the answer, John. Thank you so much for asking. I know a lot of people have asked that, so hopefully that will be instructive. So the puzzle from March 11th, the Wordle, and again, Scott Rush saying, glad I'm not the only one who agreed that email is not a valid word. I was a little surprised myself. And now, granted, in fairness, I am old enough to, I've been around since the original electronic mail services like a CompuServe and a Prodigy, America Online, all that stuff. I've been using email for a long time, and I've always thought of it as e-mail. I guess it stands to reason, though, that it is, in fact, a recognized dictionary word, I guess you could say, but I was a little surprised in the moment on that one. And here's the thing, since we're kind of maybe pulling back the curtain a little today on the mailbag and telling you a little about how the behind the scenes works, I'll drop another little interesting nugget for you that you may not be aware of. If you go back and you watch the March 11 episode, you might notice that I looked a little tired during that episode, uncharacteristically a little drained, tired, if you will, and there's a reason for that. Not having to do with the word email specifically. There have been a few occasions where the New York Times, Tracy Bennett, the editor, the Times in general, made the judgment call to place words in the word list for Wordle that would be scheduled for future days. And at some point between placing those words and the day actually arriving, they changed the words for whatever reason. I think it could be perhaps they had second thoughts. They determined that perhaps maybe the word was too difficult to solve, and they didn't want to create a lot of negativity in the Wordle community. And so words were swapped. And I feel comfortable revealing this because I highly doubt that this word is going to come up again since it was pulled. But when we went to tape the week of the March 11, I believe, if I recall correctly, was March 11. Oh, I believe March 11 was a Saturday. So we had taped the March 11 episode a week prior. We taped from Sunday through Saturday. And at the time that we did that taping, the word that was scheduled to be the solution for March 11th was the word extol, E-X-T-O-L. I think most people do not know that. Some point between the previous Sunday and Saturday, March the 11th, the times changed that. We did not know that. And so what had happened was when the stroke of midnight happened on Saturday, March 11th, the video went live to the public, and almost immediately I started getting all sorts of messages saying, hey, there's something wrong with the Daily Wordle. We're getting a different answer than extol. What's going on? And so in that scenario, what happens is I get up in the middle of the night, and Cassandra Hammerstone and myself will basically re-record the episode. I take great pains to make sure as soon as I'm hearing that this wasn't the same word, I stop because I don't want to get the correct answer spoiled. And typically what happens more often than not is it's not even me that does this. It's Cassandra Hammerstone checks the comments and rouses me from my sleep. So long story short, we load it up, I play it, and then we post it immediately. So I was a little tuckered, to put it mildly, when that episode aired, and that's the reason why. So there you go, kind of like two tidbits for one on that one. Scott, thank you so much. And by the way, thank you, Scott, for being a member of our channel, the Doug Mans Fans member. Of course, you can see Scott here with the badge next to his comments and also any participation in the live chats. So again, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Ascension writes, Doug, you mentioned doing stand-up comedy. Do you have any heckler stories? My goodness gracious. That's a fun one. Yeah, in a past life, I did stand-up comedy. I'll tell you, probably one of the most traumatic experience I had, and I was so young. I want to say I was probably 19 or 20 years old, and I really wanted to take a swing at stand-up comedy, but no one knew who I was. I didn't have a following. And so in the stand-up comedy world, there are certain venues that a newcomer, an aspiring comedian can take advantage of to perform in front of an audience. And there's an industry term. It's called a bringer. So what a bringer is in the comedy world is if you are not a known comedian, not someone that a promoter is going to reach out to and say, I'll pay you to come perform, they will provide you an opportunity to be like an opening act for somebody else on the proviso that you bring a certain number of people who will pay the price to get in the door, paid admission, and have drinks and stuff, so that the venue is guaranteed to make some money from your appearance there. So that's what the term bringer. So anyhow, I was on a show, one of the first shows I ever did, and there was like probably 8 or 9 comedians these were bringer things. So the worst setup I had, I was in a show where there were like 8 or 9 other comedians, and it was kind of like all these bringer things. They were all obscure folks, and there was one headliner. But what happened was, all of these different performers wanted to impress the club that we were performing in. And I didn't realize it was going to be kind of a popularity contest. So I had a half dozen friends along who paid to get in, but somebody brought like 30 people with them. And the approach that they took to support their comedian was they were going to heckle all the other comics relentlessly. So I got on stage and I had 5 minutes, and I didn't get 20 seconds in before I had people booing and taunting me and saying that wasn't funny to any joke I did. And it was. Here's what was interesting. I love that experience because it was obviously in that moment traumatic. It wasn't successful, but I learned more about how to handle speaking in a public setting and handling, quote unquote, reading the room and dealing with adverse situations in public speaking in that one experience than I had in my entire life's experience leading up to it. So it was actually a blessing in disguise. I learned a lot about how to kind of like improv with people. And, one of the most important skills in comedy is inevitably, I don't care who you are, somebody is going to, have a few too many to drink and start heckling. And it's all about how smooth you can be about turning it back around and kind of making them look a little silly. That's the difference between saving you from having 20 more hecklers or the rest of the crowd not wanting to mix it up. So quite an experience, but yeah, an interesting question, Ascension. Thank you so much for that. Finally today we have Wood 5 Ad C Main, interesting, who asks, I learned from your videos how useful evaluation words are, and today's video is the best example of how. When I first started playing, I'd get, for example, ER as the last 2 letters, and then I'd just run through every ER word, and then I knew until I eventually failed. Well, first of all, thank you so much for that comment. That's super cool. I appreciate that. There are so many different approaches to playing Wordle. I think that's what makes it, among other things, such a beautiful game, a game that will be around forever and ever. Like, I really don't think Wordle's ever going to go out of style. And the same reason that there are certain games that are just timeless, like Sudoku, your traditional crossword puzzles. If you like more like video gamey puzzle-y things like a Bejeweled or Candy Crush, these are games that will be around for the end of time. And Wordle is right there. In part because of the replayability. There's so many different approaches. Despite the fact that a lot of clickbaity videos will claim on the internet, including my own, there is no one right way to play Wordle. There really isn't. Certainly, yes, you can go and try and run through, in your example, all of the words that end in ER, but you've found, and through joining this community and watching other approaches, that might not be the best way to go. And there's a lot of power in strategically picking an evaluation word to light up some more tiles and, kind of trying to use each of your 6 guesses economically. Now, having said all that, I do not lay claim to being an expert Wordler or one of the best Wordlers. I consider myself a casual player that enjoys the game, loves the community, and likes to just have fun with it, recreational. Again, everyone's different, and there are so many great content creators here on YouTube that run the gamut of the different approaches to the game. Like, for example, I'll say, my good friend Rise to the Equation is a little bit more scientific about it, which is very cool, and he runs tournaments with his user base, where it's a little more competitive and you get into a little more of the game theory. And there are other folks that, will also introduce you to there are tools out there that can help you suggest guesses. It's not my cup of tea, but it's okay if that's something that you enjoy doing. So, of course, that's I think what's so great about the game. Like I said, there's a lot of different approaches to the game. There's no right or wrong way. You play Wordle to have fun, to enjoy the experience, and if what you're doing gets you there, then that's the right way to play Wordle. So there you go. Wood, thank you so much. That was a really cool comment. I appreciate you taking the time to do that. And again, like I said, we do these episodes because there's such a great community with a lot of different takes on it. and a lot of fun things to contribute. So it's very cool. And of course, I'll encourage everyone watching, feel free to jump in those comments. Let us know what you think, whether it's a starting word suggestion, how you did with that day's puzzle, or, if you want to talk strategy about Wordle, please do. Of course, we also have a Discord, and we'll make sure to put in the description how you can get there if you'd like to join that as well and do some conversation. So another episode of Doug Reacts in the books. Thank you so much, everyone, again, for being part of this really cool community. I love to see you each and every day, and we'll see you next time for some more reactions here on Doug Man's Land.